Is manure dead or it's a living thing? Is there a right way to handle that manure? And is that practice, plus many other you will share with us, what are these common mistakes that we do to our manure? And they end up not giving us good results when you take it to the shamba. When you talk about carbon and ammonia, does it mean manure can lower the soil pH? In fact, at some point I said I'll keep maybe so many sheep so that I can harness that manure. But you told me, if you take that fresh manure and then you take it to the shamba, it's like you're taking poison there. Do you still stand by that statement? I'm a farmer who have started keeping cows today. Automatically, one of the byproduct is the cow dung. I'm a farmer who wants to grow maize. Already the truck of manure from Masailand is on the way. How am I supposed to treat these two cases? And I want you to treat them maybe independently, or maybe you can treat them as one. So how am I supposed to get it right so that that manure helps me in the next season? So
we have two farmers. One using the cow dung from his shed.
Yes.
And the other one using...
And this one has just started keeping cows. In fact, the first cow has arrived today. And so, now he's watching this episode and wondering, since you have said I'm not supposed to do this, and he was prepared to take it directly to the shamba, or maybe dry it, how is he supposed to treat that manure so that it helps him in the next season?
The one from Masai or for the one from the shed?
Both of them. Maybe you can treat them independently, or maybe if it's a bracket advice, it's okay.
For the one direct from the shed, you are supposed to heap it and keep turning it.
How do you turn it?
Si kuchimba tu ya kawaida.
Okay.
After every 2 weeks unapitia, unachimba. After every 2 weeks you are going to, let's say like kitu kama ants. They are concentrated in a colony. But when you turn them around, you turn together with the eggs. So you multiply
you are distributing
the eggs. Not from the ants, also from other. You are even distributing the worms around. For the farmer so every season, after every 2 weeks, you are heaping it. After every 2 weeks, you are supposed. So for a process to be completed, it takes like three months. But you can add things like BM.
What is that?
BM is EM is effective microorganisms. It's like a microorganisms that are concentrated somewhere.
So you just spray.
So it's bought in the agrovet. So what you do is you dilute 1 liter to 20 liters of water, and use a watering can to spray on the manure. Again, you can use also EM. But if you don't have that, what you can do is that when the manure arrives, as it is being poured from the lorry, spray it with maji. The normal maji. What you are doing is that you are introducing moisture into what happens the following day. Hiyo kitu inatoanga moshi kama hii nini ya makaa. It's like you are removing that temperature. With that, it will reach a maximum temperature. Then it will start coming down. It will cool, and that cooling effect comes with now those microorganisms. It's like now, if let's say you are using irrigation and like now it had been dry, and you use that manure, a lot of farmers will tell you that I planted kitu kaa niliweka manure mingi afu nikaweka maji but maybe the germination rate of maybe like my cabbages, my maize was like 20%. What happens? Immediately You realize when from the nurseries, the roots are very tender. Unakuja, unamwaga maji, and then you plant your cabbage, and then you put your maize there. The moment they develop that shoots, the temperature around it, because of the reaction of the maji, the water, and the manure is very high. It produces a lot of heat. Now that heat is what chomas, burns the new shoots. And you just remain there saying that the germination rate of my seed, maybe my seeds were bad. By the way, this aspect of farmers saying that the seeds are fake and I was told what happens is either before you point to the agrovet, before you point to that seller, before you point to the seed manufacturers, look at yourself. What have I not done right? So if you take that manure when it is decomposed, one, the temperatures are low. So instead of being a threat to your crop, it will be a feed to your crop. So you see your crops coming up strongly because the feeding right from the start is very high, unlike where the crop will have to struggle. For the cabbage, it will burn the tender roots. Burning the tender roots meaning it will not even going to feed.
Does that burning also affect maize?
That's what I said.
Or it cuts across all crops?
It cuts across all the crops because for the maize, it will have to produce the shoot. When the temperatures are high, what happens to the shoot? It burns.
Now, help me understand this. And to make it more simpler for our viewer. That farmer who has started keeping cows and has the first cow dung. So after every 2 weeks, he turns that.
He's supposed to heap and turn.
And turn after every 2 weeks.
Keep turning.
And then he can apply the microorganism.
Yes, if he is able to.
In case it's dry, it's not raining. Is it advisable to add moisture to it?
The one from Masai land or from?
No, the one from the cow shed.
Yeah? No. The one from the cow shed has enough.
It's just turning.
Has enough moisture, yeah.
The one from Masai land, you have to add water.
You have to add water for it to start decomposing.
So, in a summary form, if I understood you right, if I take my manure direct to the shamba, it will bring the burning effect.
It will burning the.
It's what you call the scorching.
Yeah.
If I take it when it's too dry, again it doesn't help the crop. It will require moisture and then it starts to decompose.
It is half baked.
It will have baked.
It is half baked, so it will have to wait for it to be fully baked. But know that, like now, let's say for kitu kama mahindi, it has that period of maturity. It means that before the time it is taking for it to mature, it's taking at all on. That means that's when you get the maize producing the tassels at this height. Simply because the time for the maturity stage it has reached at that point. Again, it will be stressed. Stress means the time for me to leave. Stress means for a stress to a plant or a crop means that the time for me to die is almost. So what will happen? I'll produce what I have so that I don't die with the other generation. So it will mature faster. So what happens? Utapata tu mahindi ni kafupi lakini kametoa kama mahindi.
Kama hindi kano.
Simply it is, nimekwambia, there are those natural things that you have to interpret for yourself. Naturally, any living thing is supposed to leave its siblings behind, sindio? And it happens even in crops. Lazima tuliambiwa tuzaane tujaze
generation
iendelee. So what happens, like, let me take you back to a practice that used to happen. Anasemanga tuseme kama mti kama ya maembe isipozaa, what do you do? Unaichapa msumari ama unakata kidogo. Hiyo ni kushtua tu, naishtua. Naiambia either mimi nikufa na kufa. So what happens? I'm not going to do it today with my children. So inafaa Nayo nasema ati sijui unapiga msumari. Okay. In some aspect you are putting more iron into
because of rusting.
Because of rusting, and eventually that msumari ni iron. So it's like it was deficient in iron. Lakini hii ya kukata alafu inatoa maua ni kuishtua, unaishtua tu, inaona ai hapa nakufa, acha nitoe watoto wangu. Na watoto wa maembe ni si ni maembe.
Exactly. So there's a very interesting, and as we said, it's a very controversial statement, yeah, or a very controversial view, because most of the people who do soil test, and maybe the pH is low, that means the soil is acidic, right? So one of the recommendation is apply manure
and lime.
So you're saying there must be a rider. It's a well decomposed manure. Otherwise you might make the case more worse.
Nimekwambia much of acidity yenye tuko nayo it's either natural ama activated by
manure
and decomposed manure.
So the DAP input is very little.
Sasa ukiangalia like one bag of DAP, what can it do to an acre? Surely. What can it do to an acre? Unlike whereby you can have enough manure to spread, to broadcast in 1 acre.
So, there's something you have talked about lime. I remember in one of the field, in one of our field, the pH was low. And as I look at these recommendations, and your viewer, you can see from that table that indeed this soil is acidic. One of the recommendation was to use 2 forms of lime. So mimi, and I told you I'm just an innocent inheritor of dairy farming. I'm someone who have seen so many neighbors doing these things, generations doing these things. So anytime you're told that their soil is acidic, tunakimbianga tu pale kwa that time as you used to go to KFA, Kenya Farmers, I think it's Kenya Farmers Association. Nasema nataka line, nataka kupeleka kwa shamba. But I having a discussion with you, especially for the purpose of our field, you made me understand there are different types of line. And they are applied for different purposes. And there is a way you can go to apply lime and you make the case more worse. So what are these different types of agricultural lime and how are they applied in the shamba?
In our recommendations, in most cases, we do recommend for dolomitic lime, we do recommend for calcitic lime, and we do recommend gypsum. Now,
gypsum ya kujenga?
No, hata kuna lime ya kujenga. I'll come to that. The difference between the three. Now, why do we apply lime? And as you have said, you can even worsen your case if you apply lime blindly. One, get to note we are using calcium. Calcium is alkaline.
Absolutely.
Calcium is alkaline. So if you use it without even getting the right doses, you are going to alkaline your soil, which is even more dangerous than acidic soils. So if your pH is, let's say, 4, you need to push it towards 5, 6, up to 7. You need, ni vile tunasemanga kundango carrot in front of ya punda, but you have to be careful isiende sana. You get? So you have to get to push your pH to the required measure. Let me use that word. So if it is 4.8, there is a certain amount you have to use to push it to that level, of which you are only given from our labs. If you apply it blindly, you are going to get to the other side of alkaline. So again, it's not every lime that is for every soil. You see? So for calcitic lime, actually we don't give brand names because we cut across all companies. But when you say you go to the shop and say agricultural lime, of course you don't say ya kujenga unapata kwa hardware, sio kwa agrovet. So,
and I remember there is also in animal feeds we have lime.
You have lime, stock lime, sindio?
Yes.
So what is the difference between hizo?
I don't know.
No, I'm telling the farmer, there's no way kusema ati kwa sababu napanda cabbage hapa na Patrick ameniletea stock lime unaenda kupanda nayo boga. That way utakuwa umetupa mbao. So they are specific. Like look, let's like for agricultural lime. Agricultural lime, there's what we call calcitic lime. Usually, apart from adding calcium to your soil, it is also used for loose soil, for compact soils. What calcium does when it gets into the particles, it opens the particles, and maybe then the particles and the nutrients are able to penetrate, like in clay soils, heavy clay soils. There's compaction. Compaction, it means that we don't have free way for air, for nutrients, and for water. So much of water that will be coming, if it is compact, much of what will be coming either will be lost through runoff. There will be no free penetration of nutrients, so even if you top dress, much of it will be going down the drain. And number 3, the root penetration, because of compactness, it is not going to have that free way for it to penetrate there. So that is apart from supplying calcium. We have dolomitic lime, which is opposite.
Before you go to, you have called it dolom what?
No, that is calcitic. That was I was.
Yes, for calcitic.
Calcitic lime. If you go to the shops, its trade name is agricultural lime.
Now, there's a farm.
Before you come in, let me show the farmer the danger of just going and buying lime from the counter without doing an analysis. Here you have a compact soil, and you have gone to an agrovet and purchased calcitic lime. What happens? No, you have loose soils.
It will continue being loose and
the work
loose
of
and
calcitic, the work of calcitic lime is to loosen the particles. Na hapa umekuja na calcitic lime, unaweka, what happens? It loosens further. Sasa hapo ndio unapata mitaro kwa shamba, ndio unapata loose soil, all the soil is going to, instead of now again using dolomitic lime, which is the opposite of this one, it compacts, it brings together. Now the danger of using too much without having proper dosage is that inajengaga barabara.
Dolomitic
inaongezwa mg, that is magnesium. Uzuri wa hii iko na magnesium. So no, gypsum ndio iko na magnesium. Hii ni dolomitic, ni calcium tu, lakini iko na compaction effect. Yeah. So why do we need to compact our soils? 1, for water retention. Number 2, for anchorage. Unapata ile yenye iko juu sana, kama kuna wind inaenda yote.
The top soil goes.
Alafu number 2, kama ni mahindi inaanguka yote, kama ni miti inaanguka yote, because it's loose. So for this one is for water retention. Kama una top dress, the nutrients are able to be retained around the roots, unaiendi chini sana. Alafu number 3, runoff effect. Hai maji haiendi sana na too much nitrogen in your soil is harmful.
How? I now understand why whenever you come to collect the samples for our fields, you always ask, what do you intend to plant?
Exactly.
I have always said one day I'll ask you, uko na biashara gani na chenye napanda? How does it concern you? How do you apply lime to the field? So because I'm an elite farmer who want to progress, maybe we have youthful farmers who are getting into this game. So how do I interpret these fertilizers? Last week when we were planting, the planting fertilizer we got was white in color. Don't ask me about the ratios. I'm just a typical farmer. When it comes to crops, I'm a typical farmer. It was white in color. So my guys said, but this one won't perform. It's not black.
Okay.
Does color has anything to make a farmer worry?